Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Autistic Professor. Earlier this year, I published a paper in which I called for a radical shift in the way we measure issues of importance in autism research. Several people questioned whether I was really serious in making such an outrageous statement. Would I really prefer to see research conducted with untested measures designed by autistic people to measure autistic experiences rather than with the validated measures that have been used for many years or even decades in autism research? Yes, I would. To explain why, I'm going to talk about one very widely used measure in autism research, the Societal Attitudes Towards Autism Scale, known as SATA. I had seen SATA referenced in a number of papers since its inception about a decade ago, but I had not explored the measure in depth until I read a 2019 paper that relied on the SATA scale to draw an interesting conclusion about autistic experiences. The article started with the interesting question posed on an online forum by an autistic person. Why are neurotypicals so pig ignorant about autism? After collecting and analysing data from over 1,000 non-autistic Australian adults, the authors concluded that neurotypicals generally had high knowledge about autism and almost all had positive attitudes towards autism. Problem solved. So now I was curious. My own research, the research of other academics, and the content of any social media site with autistic members will show you that autistic people regularly experience stigma, discrimination, and isolation. How did the evidence conclusively show the exact opposite to what many autistic people experience? Time to find out how they measured attitudes to autistic people. You guessed it, they used the SATA. The SATA scale was released in 2012 and is described by its creators as a brief 16-item measure of societal attitudes towards autism that exhibits sound psychometric properties and has demonstrated ability to discriminate between expert and general college student samples. The SATA showed strong content and construct validity, as evidenced by known groups discrimination and predicted associations with other established measures. So all good things in terms of the development of measurement tools that stand up to the rigour of research. The 2019 study that I mentioned used 15 of the 16 items of the SATA. They excluded one because it was very focused on children. To be counted as a person with a positive attitude, you needed to score 31 out of a possible 54. So let's take a look at some hypothetical people with positive attitudes towards autism. This is Jack. Jack thinks that autistic people are fairly capable. He believes they can go to university, form relationships, and live independently. However, Jack would not be comfortable sitting next to an autistic person or hugging an autistic person, and is a little bit afraid of autistic people. Jack's SATA score is 36. He has a positive attitude towards autism. Now this is Jill. Jill thinks that autistic people are cute and kind of quirky, and she would happily hang out with an autistic person. However, Jill doesn't think that autistic people are capable of living independently of their family or of achieving successful careers, so they're probably a burden on their family. Jill's SATA score is 41, so she has a positive attitude towards autism. And finally, Bob. Bob thinks that autistic people are competent, capable members of society and welcomes them to the community. However, Bob knows that autistic people are incapable of feeling or expressing emotions, so they should not get married or have children. Bob's SATA score is 42, so he also has a positive attitude towards autism. Sadly, people like these are very real. As research shows, and autistic people can attest, the general population has a limited understanding of what it means to be autistic, and we experience systemic exclusion and discrimination. Just how low do we want to set the bar to define someone as having a positive attitude? Should I really feel satisfied that people think I'm harmless but a bit of a burden, or competent but incapable of forming relationships? As long as autism research continues to use tools like this to measure society's attitudes towards autistic people, and continues to conclude that people like these three have positive attitudes, I will continue to argue that it's time for a radical shift in the way we do autism research. A first step might be less focus on the psychometric properties of measurement tools and more focus on what it is we are actually trying to measure. What do societal attitudes to autism actually look like? What should they look like? How about we ask autistic people? Let's keep the conversation going on how we can support all autistic people to grow into their autism. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you again. I hope this was useful. Please feel free to comment below.